So Dune Awakening is an upcoming survival MMO, and while it'll have aspects of both a survival game and an MMO game, it will primarily be focused on being a survival game with MMO elements added onto that to make it feel like a much larger world, have a lot more players, have a lot more social features. Now, why this distinction is important is because survival games, especially these type of survival games, are usually pretty PvP focused. Games like Ark Survival Evolved or Conan Exiles, or even having some similarities to something like Rust. All of those more server-based survival games are still generally more focused on PvP, even though they can have PvE-focused servers. But Dune Awakening also being an MMO means all of the different types of content are going to all be in one game and accessible at the same time. And the biggest reason I want to talk about this is because I've been seeing a lot of people thinking that you will have to be a PvP-focused player, or you will have to take part in PvP to obtain, let's say, all of the better gear in the end game, or obtain all the different resources throughout the game. And that's just not going to be the case with how Dune Awakening is being designed. So in Dune Awakening, you're going to have like a 10 to 15 minute scenario after you create your character. This is just going to teach you some of the basics, going to give you some of the basic elements to start off. And then after you leave that, you're going to enter the place you're going to be for a good amount of time at the start of Dune Awakening, called Haga Basin, which is the first big zone you're going to be in. And once you leave that kind of starting scenario, you will be in a specific area of Haga Basin that's kind of like a lower level area. As you progress, you'll start to get to all the different parts of Haga Basin, and Haga Basin is pretty massive. It's the size of the Conan Exiles map. So this isn't going to be just like some small starter zone. This is going to be an absurdly large piece of gameplay area. The developers have said there's like 100 hours of content in this, but that doesn't also include farming up tons of additional resources constantly, or making more bases, or just general additional farming, which is things you would always be doing in survival games or MMOs. So that's just kind of the unique content, and that can give you some perspective on how much stuff is actually going to be in this initial play space. And one of the biggest things you need to know about Haga Basin, especially if you're somebody that's not going to want to PvP, is Haga Basin is primarily PvE. Pretty much the only PvP areas, or the only PvP areas that the developers have described so far, is that there can be these ship crashes. So you'll see a big ship come down and crash, blow up, and that'll create this shipwreck that you can go harvest resources from or try to obtain loot from. And some or all of those are PvP enabled. So you would see like a specific area around it that when you went into it, you're able to PvP other players. And that's the primary bit of PvP that's gonna be in Haga Basin. Pretty much everything else is PvE focused. Now, after you've been progressing into Haga Basin quite a while, you'll get to the point where you can make your first flying vehicle, the Ornithopter. And once you get this, that will allow you to go to the world map and travel to the different areas. Going to the world map turns into this kind of top-down view where you're just kind of flying a little Ornithopter to go to all of the different areas. Now, to start off, you have two social hubs, which are basically just big cities you can go to. The cities are going to be able to have a lot of players in them, but they're not combat-focused areas. You go there to go to the player auction, to pick up different objectives or quests, go talk to the different factions. These are just non-combat player hubs. Now, you can also travel to the player hubs before you get your own Ornithopter. You're able to talk to specific NPCs that will, for a cost, fly you to those early. So before you get your own Ornithopter, if you want to go to the player market and buy something from another player or sell something, you'll be able to do that. But the final area you're able to go to once you get your Ornithopter is the Deep Desert, which is the primary play space of Dune Awakening, at least in its size. And the Deep Desert is going to be 9 stitched together zones that are going to be massive. It's going to be like 9 times the Conan Exiles map. And each one of these stitched together zones is hosted on a different server, meaning they can have a lot more people in each area. They want hundreds, potentially up to like 500 people in one area. In Dune Awakening, you have this PvE area that's really large with a lot of content. You have your pretty much permanent base that really can't be raided by other players. And then you have full access to everything, or almost everything, that can come from the PvP focused Deep Desert, because you can just buy it from other players. So if you're really a PvE focused player that really does not want to partake in any PvP, you will be able to do that in Dune Awakening. Now, I'm definitely not saying it's going to be the most optimal. I'm definitely not saying you're going to be able to easily obtain everything from the deep desert just by buying it from other players, but you will have access to pretty much all of it just being a PvE focused player. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.